So today's the day. I'll fire this beastie up so you guys can see and hear. It's already been running. This isn't the first start. I started it yesterday and posted an 8-second video and already had the internet complaining. Yeah, I started it with the bags on the filters. I don't care. There's a reason for that, eh? Like, I didn't actually want the thing to start at that point in time. I had cranked it over without the fuel pump. And I was like, alright, so let's turn on the fuel pump, see if it'll cough and splutter. And then we'll be on the way, knowing where we're at. So I turned on the fuel pump and touched the old magic wire. There's no starter switch in it at the moment. We haven't quite got that far. Touched that onto the jumper cables and it actually just fired up and ran. It ran quite lumpy. It was quite surgy because it could barely suck in any air apart from through the PCV system on the crankcase. It was sucking in some air just enough for it to idle. So I grabbed the phone. By the time I grabbed the phone, turned the phone on, ran for all of about 3 seconds or 4 seconds. So yes, it had the bags on the filters. I don't freaking care. But anyway, as you can see, well, you might be able to see. I don't know if you can see. Can you see? You can see. You can see. It does not have the bags on the filters. So it runs better. In here, apart from our spaghetti that needs tidying up still, is transmission tunnel. Hole in transmission tunnel. I didn't finish this area off because we've got to put a handbrake lever here somewhere. And based on where the gear lever was going to be originally, the handbrake was going to be quite a long way back and I didn't like it. So I had a talk with the customer. Came up with a bit of a concept using a shifter mechanism from a D22 Navara box and modifying it and doing exactly what's happened here, and then put a gear lever on top with a bracket. Had a bit of an internet search, and the boys at GK Tech over in Australia, they had already been there, done that, developed that, made it work for a reasonable price. So we just bought that. No sense in mucking around and reinventing the wheel. Someone's already done it. It's all CNC milled and all that sort of carry on. I'll show you the rest of that kit shortly. So there's the original hole. This notch, I guess you call it, that I've cut out here was for the original shifter. So it was quite a bit further back than what this one will be. And this one will, it's got the reverse lockout, so you can't accidentally hook reverse instead of whatever it is, 5th or 6th. And it doesn't rotate. I think I showed you earlier the gear shifter was doing an arc like this instead of going side to side. So that'll take care of that. I've got to take a bit more out of the top of the transmission tunnel to make it easier to take the gearbox in and out, because old Murphy's Law, you know, if I don't do that now, it's going to bite me later on. So over on the bench, actually, where's the original shifter? Here's the original yucky shifter here. Short shifter tip. The universal joints are in the box there. So basically they hack them apart. Trying to do things, running out of hands at the moment. Basically they hack them apart and weld them together. And that's why you get that rotating of the lever as that goes from side to side. The lever's doing an arc to follow it, so it's not actually a very good way to do it. The GK Tech kit, I've just shown you just there, that's basically, well, that's a piece of the kit anyway, isn't it? So straight away, there's the roll pin lined up, so we've gained, I don't know, whatever that is, that distance there, 50 mils I'll call it. So we're sort of 50 mils better off. You'll have to excuse that noise, I just dropped this mess. So effectively the gear lever is going to go from being sort of here to here straight away, and won't do that horrible curvy thing like this as you're trying to go across the gates. So she's going to be much nicer. I'll show you that. It's all on the bench in a bit of a state. We've just had Kelvin from the cartoon company around here just to have a look at a couple of things, make sure I had everything set up right on the motor, and she's good. She's good. So I'll show you that later on in the video. There's a nice bracket to attach it to your gearbox, and comes with a nice gear lever. All set, ready to go. Just needs bolting into this, and then you bolt it into the car. Much better deal than what we had before. So stoked we've got our hands on that. Make life a lot easier. There we go, slightly bigger hole chomped in the transmission tunnel here. Now we can get to these top 2 bolts that hold that bracket on. Also chopped off the end of the shaft as recommended in the GK Tech instructions. Not sure whether it would have actually failed on anything or not. I guess they must have had problems with it, so that's why they've told us to do it. Absolute minimal clearance in between this yoke and the shifter mechanism here. Neither of those components move up or down, and the yoke goes round and round, and that's all. So it can't get any closer unless there's some sort of catastrophic failure somewhere. So that should be alright. It's looking good. I'll go over there and we'll get the rest of that stuff and we'll fit it. There we go. One shifter squeezing in through the door there. All sorted out. Not a terrible piece of kit. It all works quite nicely. So that's that sorted. Gear lever's quite long, obviously. I'll trim that down. It's got a reasonable sort of throw to it between the gears. 5th and 6th are a bit tricky to get into while there's no movement going on, but that's absolutely to be expected. You're not supposed to be putting it in 5th from a standstill. You can see the LVVTA love these. This is a drive shaft hoop. They like making people jump through hoops and putting shafts through hoops. So there you go, that's that. Right, now that we got that figured out, we can go and get the gear lever boot that we got from Auto Parts World down in Timaru freaking ages ago. That was probably before lockdown. That's been around for a long time. I can mount that above here. It's probably going to end up with 2 panels so that we've got enough room to get that out. And once we've got that figured out, we can seal up this part here from where my hand is rearwards and get the handbrake mechanism mounted on there. It can actually sit down quite a little bit lower. We don't need as much clearance as what we've got, so we can get that done. Probably we'll set it up so the handbrake's off, you know, to the side here of the gear lever, and leave enough of a knob hanging out above it so you're not banging into the the handbrake lever while you're changing gears, and that'll do. It's not positioned terribly in the car, like you can see where the steering wheel is there, where the gear lever is, so it's not awful. Probably a little bit further better. Forward would have been better rather, but that's going to work. If I really wanted to, I could do, crashing into everything. I could do weld something on here, put another bloody bar going forward and the pivot up here somewhere, and then shift the lever like that. But the more pivot points and stuff you have, the sloppier the gear shifting is, and yuckier it is. Yep, the supercharger pulley's not there. It didn't fall off, don't worry. It's been taken off, and we're in the process of organising new pulleys. So the owner of the car's requesting it makes a given amount of power. I don't need to tell you what that is right now. I could, but I'm not going to. Factory pulley is, factory Stillen pulley is 63 OD to the outside of the V's. We've got another aftermarket pulley that we'll put a new centre in to save us having to machine all the V grooves. That one there is, sorry, did I say 63? I meant 73. If I said 63, that's wrong. 73. That one there's 70. This one here, 65. And I did a whole heap of crazy maths on, well, not crazy, but I did a whole heap of blah blah blahs on the whiteboard there, trying to figure out where we're going to end up. And there's a little bit of conflicting info, so we're not really sure. We have to try it and see. 63, sorry, 73. What do I keep saying 63 today? 73 millimeters gives us 6 pounds of boost. That's the factory setting. I know there's a 70 millimeter pulley available through Stillen that gives 8. My calculations said it would be probably 7.2, but apparently it's 8. So, and I did another calculation for one at 65 would give us 7.9 or something like that. But based on that difference from there to there, it might be more like 11. What we're trying to achieve is 500 horsepower at the wheels. I said I wasn't going to tell you and I just told you. Damn it. I shouldn't do videos when I'm getting tired. Anyway, never mind. In here we finally, at last, long last, put the handbrake assembly in there. It's not bolted in, it's just sitting there at the moment, but that's what I was gunning for the whole time. So we got that GK Tech shifter, got that mounted in there, and now I've closed off that with that panel that we got from Auto Parts World a long time ago. Finally fitted that in there, so that's all sealed up, and the handbrake's sitting exactly where it needs to be nice and, let's say, ergonomically correct. Once you put the steering wheel, which is lying in the back seat, and the driver's seat in there and sit in the car, those two things are now in a nice position. The gear lever is going to work a heck of a lot better than what it would have before, and hopefully I've got it all right and we can run a cable along the top right hand side of that transmission tunnel and out the back, and then we can have our thing underneath here where it splits into 2 cables and runs to the Ford Explorer park brake assemblies. Right, so I'm about to slam the door and make a big noise. Yes, go on, complain about the wiring. I dare you. About to go off down the road and get someone to machine just some bar stock. We're not going to worry about the OD, I can deal with that. Just machine the center to the correct diameter and put the keyway slot. I can't machine the keyway slot. I can do everything else, but there's no point in doing it if I can't finish it off. So I'll just get someone to just chop off a couple of pieces of bar at the right length with the right size hole with the key slot in it. And then I'll machine the guts out of this one and press in a new center and weld that onto the center. It'll be done. I only need a couple of tack welds to hold it so it doesn't fall off. Same deal with this one. This is off a late model Spanish, I think it was, Spanish assembled 450 Navara. So they have a one-way bearing inside them, which I've pressed out and put on the bench because it might be handy for something one day later on. Getting quite a long way sidetracked from what I was actually doing. The ignition switch on it, on the old Gloria here, has been not starting properly in the car. It had like a remote start button fitted to it to get around the problem. I've tried to buy a new one of these. Might be able to. I think they're a Datsun part, not so much a Nissan part, and they might be able to come from overseas. Pretty tricky at the moment. What I've done is I've just put it in the lathe, and this is normally crimped over at the back here, and I've just parted off that particular piece. So this will now come apart, and I'll be able to have a look inside and see if there's anything I can do to fix this actual unit. That's all flickering for you, isn't it? That's better. You can see better now. Yeah, see if I can actually get that apart, repair that, and put it back together again. Putting it back together won't be so easy, but I do have a trick up my sleeve. So just whip that out, have a look, see what's going on inside. There'll be burnt contacts or a lot of dirt in there. Usually they can be repaired. I used to rebuild them for aircraft, but you could buy a repair kit, and there were a couple of screws that held the whole thing together. These not so much. So I'll see what I can come up with. Alright, no surprises in there. Poor lighting for you guys. Just dirty contacts really. You can see what's going on there. Actually there's a bit of something hanging off that terminal which is in the middle of the screen. Well, lost our focus there. That could have something to do with it. It doesn't take much to disturb your electrical continuity. It's a big word for today. Just in general, just grubby and yucky. So I might be able to give that a clean up then try and figure out how I'm going to stick it back together. This pin is broken. That pin locates the, let's call it a key. It's not, but the plastic component that does the turning of this component. So that's broken off, so I'll fix that while I'm at it. Might be able to make it work. Go another, was it 50 years? Something like that. That'd be good. Also got a little bit of an issue with contacts. That one's wriggly, and that one there as well. Hard for you guys to see. Easy enough for me, so I'll have to retension those. That's probably where the issue's been coming from. The rest of this stuff is not, it's not pretty, but it's not that bad that it will be causing our problems, I don't think. So I'll call that a success. Got our terminals on there just temporarily. Those are the cheap, nasty crimp-on ones. They'll hold your multimeter probes reasonably well, depending on the angles and stuff, so you can bang those in there, and then you got your hands free to do other things if you need to. Obviously, key, that's in the ignition position at the moment. It goes around to start. And we've got continuity. So, I've tested it like 20 or 30 times. So that's repeatable. It just works, goes, no problem at all. The original setup, it wasn't working, and that's why someone had put a push to start button in the car, which was not very good, and they cause problems themselves. It's, you know, you don't want to get in a car and put your key in, turn your key around to ignition, but not to start, because it may or may not go, and then reach across to the start button, push the start button, blah blah blah. It's just dumb. It's way easier to make things work now, spend the time, get it working right, and then the car's just going to be so much nicer to drive, and there's less wiring to deal with. So that's good. I'm stoked. Rightio, let's do something else. I'll get back on with this stuff. A few things have changed now. This was never finished anyway. Starter motor wiring, alternator wiring, windscreen wiper motor wiring, and a couple other things. The instrument cluster is going to be completely different. We're not using the factory cluster anymore. We're using aftermarket gauges. So anything that's attached to this plug here, it's got to go. It's got to all be changed. So fortunately, I hadn't finished with this. I've basically gone through and replaced a few dodgy connections here with some new Deutsch connectors to get rid of the old plastic ones. These things here, some of them are still good, but most of them are just deteriorated with old age. I think that's got a crack, maybe not. Yeah, it has got a small crack in it, but it should be all right. So a lot of this wiring that you see running through here from instrument cluster / dash area through to engine bay, this all runs through, can't really even show you up here in the top there, pops out behind the headlight, comes through, goes back through a hole. Used to go some of it into the engine bay, most of it goes across the front here and then runs headlights and things like that. So this all needs heavy modifications, but it's alright. 3 o'clock Friday Arvo, we'll get into this. Maybe we'll get this wrapped up this week and done and dusted, and won't have to do any more of this. Spaghetti. Geez, just when you thought you've got to the end of all the little dramas, this wire kind of just fell apart just now. That's the main power feed for the alternator. Look at that. Didn't just break just now. Look at the corrosion in that. It's been like that for a while. It's still making contact, but not very good. Can't quite pull that away just with one hand. Man. Okay, we're fixing that. All you bloody whingers whinging about the plastic bags. Wasn't supposed to run for a long time, but now it is, and it's appears to be running quite nicely, considering we have not yet tuned it. So yeah, thanks Kelvin. Picked up on a couple of well, basically all I had wrong was a pull-up was on for a temp sensor, so so we did that. Bit of oil smoke burning out of the engine there. It's been sat so long.
Oh, good.